what actually Michael did, because I was staring at him going, dude, Michael Bay's in my cube on the ground. That's awesome.
I feel these mountains are really tight on them. You know what I mean? They're right behind them, which makes them look fake, by the way. I don't know. Do these things move away?
One detail of working with Michael on this one that was a new development, I think, both for Michael and for us, was several scenes that we had that were entirely CG. One thing that we discovered that was very difficult was that we had a hard time in CG figuring out how he wanted the cameras to move, and he would kind of get a little frustrated in our transmissions that we couldn't react quickly.
They were having trouble blocking the scene, and I didn't realize that at first. It was just a painstaking approach. The cameras were very mechanical, and what I realized is, God, wait a minute. They're animators, and I'm a director, and I block things every day. And it's like, that's the problem.
Here, give me that.
They had this little stage that they started. It's wired with infrared. It tracks me wherever I am on a stage, and they put in these crude little models of my different robots, and I was able to compose my shots. Literally, I was able to block the scene in their little room in about a half hour. Literally, I'm just, okay, switch my lens. I had my lens control. They can raise me up on this digital world, and so I'm standing on the floor and I'm moving around like a cameraman. It just circumvented so much, time by me going up and being able to go on a stage like that and block it myself.
Another very difficult sequence was the forest battle. More fighting, not so much dialogue, but it's supposed to be like way up there, like it's an Akira Kurosawa battle scene in a Japanese film of great proportion.
Michael gave us the mandate that these are not going to be big lumbering robots that require a lot of effort to get around. They're agile martial art experts. He had a great team of previs artists down in LA. Took 3 artists like a month to put this together, and we tried to go overboard a little bit with how much fighting was in the previs that we did, so Michael would have a slew of things that he could choose from.
Of course, what's difficult is that we'll do the animatic and it's kind of on a virtual set. And then you get out there onto the real set and this is the space you've got. So you start adjusting and covering plates, and we even shoot virtual backgrounds to make sure that we can still get the shots that Michael wanted to from the animatic, just in case the real space didn't quite work for what we needed.
Michael had always been pretty specific about wanting flaming trees in the background, particulate flaming debris in the air. The robots are massive. They're 40 to 60 feet high, so we need them kicking dirt up at every step. So we had to go out and shoot a lot of that. We also had to do a lot of digimat work or paint work on the ground to have footfalls, scuffs in the ground that the robots leave behind as they fight. So that was a lot of work on our end.
It's pretty fun to work on beating the crap out of Optimus in this movie. I'll kind of take a look at all the punches and hits that they take during a sequence, and then sort of come up with the end amount of damage and really just mess them up. And then I'll sort of go back and remove things in each stage, and we try to limit the number of stages because you don't really see everything in every shot. So I think with Optimus we had 4 stages of damage.
So over the course of the sequence, you'll see he acquires more and more damage, and that's done through model, like breaking the glass in his windshields or damaging his face, and then incredible paint work of dirt, streaks, there's grass stuck in his helmet like football players have after they get tackled, just looking at lots of fight reference and figuring out the best elements that we could show to show the progress in the sequence and show that he is getting worn down until its big conclusion.
That's looking good.
Okay, go.
I love the grass hanging on it, guys.
Yeah.
Look at that. You gotta put that shit on there.
We
We ended up doing a ton of simulation on this show because Michael, he requires the highest level of realism that we can give. And that means, you know, when somebody gets hit by, you know, a giant tank round, that part of them would blow up, and he wants to see that. If something splashes into water, he wants to see that. If something blows up, he wants to see real looking smoke. And if we're cutting down trees and smashing trees in the forest, he wants to see those things moving like they really would. We have an aircraft carrier that we had to blow up, that we had to fracture in multiple places. The planes on the deck, all individually had to be broken and fractured. The planes had to be able to flip over. There were helicopters.
It's easy to forget that everything in this shot, absolutely everything, had to be accounted for and built and textured and provided to be simulated and lit and dropped into the water.
Once Michael Bay saw the planes and the helicopters, we had to add more. We had to add chains. We had to have people, you know, falling off and trying to hang on to the boat for dear life. You can see that he's having so much fun. You know, he really likes this stuff as much as we do. When Michael came to visit once, we were showing him some of the destruction that we were doing, and Michael kind of laughed and said, "Do you have a team of people doing this kind of stuff all day?" And we said, "Yeah, you know, we have a whole team of people just blowing stuff up." And he said, "If I worked here, I would work on that team."
On the first movie, Optimus was our biggest, most complex model. Our average robot on this movie is about 1.5 times as dense as that. And Devastator is about 7 or 8 times as dense as that.
When I loaded the whole entire creature all at once on my machine and tried to get it over into our proprietary software, my machine actually completely froze and had a total meltdown.
Our computer IT guys came up to look at what had happened. They said that the motherboard was dead, the hard drive had failed, and the memory was fried. So, you know, everybody was a little bit afraid of Devastator at that point because he would devastate your machine.
Okay, I want to show you what happens when we try to open a scene that has Devastator saved with all of his high-res pieces on. Eric has been friendly enough to save a scene for us with all the high-res pieces turned on. It took about an hour to save. Okay, ready to send this over to Derek? Yeah, ready. All right. Okay, go for it.
All right, let's go.
Derek, can you open up GF170? Now that's a giant fucking robot.
It's about 5 times the amount in Optimus Prime. We think Devastator is the biggest creature that we've ever done at ILM.
What we decided to do was to actually have the rig of the Devastator asset be made up of several other assets, which is actually what it is in the movie. It's made up of different construction vehicles.
When we first showed the original Devastator to Michael, you know, we had been brought to our knees by putting this thing together and putting all this detail and all this extra work into the biggest asset we had ever done. And when Michael saw it, he said, it doesn't look detailed enough. So we were kind of sent back to square one, and we had to go in and add more detail and add more parts. And we basically doubled his size again.
When we found out that that sequence was going to be in IMAX, it got even better because now we had